All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Thursday, April 17th. We have a 10-game MLB slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment below. That'll take you to all of my final plays, so what I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, it's absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. All right, Wednesday's recap. We were due for a bounce back. We did just that. We go 4-1-1. The one push / void being Bryson Stott. He does not suit up. But that one loss, the Sean Newcomb, Red Sox pitcher, over 4.5 strikeouts. The good news is that was the smallest play we had on the board. All 4 wins, half-unit plays, that being just a quarter-unit sprinkle on a plus money play, in which I still think was a fine read, right? He had 4 strikeouts through, I think, 4 2/3, and the Rays weren't really hitting him. That's what this was based on. So yeah, I think that's a fine loss, if there is such thing as a fine loss. But I think the good news is that all 4 of our winners were half-unit plays, that just being a quarter-unit play, right? We had the Braves and Blue Jays nerfy. That comes through early for us. And then we kind of doubled down. We double-dipped here with the Diamondbacks. We took them on the money line. And then we also thought that they would hit up Max Meyer, which they did. Over 4.5 hits allowed, cashed as well. And then the Mariners-Reds first 5 under. You're always risking it in Great American Ballpark, but that comes through for us as well. So what do you say we take that momentum into today? Like I said, I'm even pulling positives from that Sean Newcomb play. It looked like a good look. He looked pretty good compared to what he's been this season. So you know what? Let's take that momentum. Let's roll it right into today's slate. Guys, go ahead and hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well. Make sure you're dropping your plays down in the comments. I know I sound like a broken record and I say this all the time, but there are so many great plays down in the comments that I'm reading on the daily, and I'm seeing other people tailing and whatnot. That is ideal. So go ahead. If you think you have a good look, a good angle, give your reasoning and rationale down in the comments and drop it down there. But all right, let's go ahead and dive into game number 1 here. We got Miami taking on Arizona. So this series thus far has been all Arizona all the time. 10-4 win in game 1, 6-2 win. You know, we're on the right side of that one. 6-2 win yesterday in game number 2. Today we have Edward Cabrera on the mound for the Marlins, going up against Eduardo Rodriguez. Ed versus Ed. Here we have for the Diamondbacks, right? So Cabrera hasn't looked all that great. I mean, he has the 1 start under his belt this season up against Washington, 5 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, 3 walks, 1 home run. Kind of mediocre, right? 3.18 ERA, not all that bad. But then you look at his FIP, 5.13. 190 average against, that's pretty good, but then you look at his walk rate, 12.5. So because it's such a small sample size, there's a decent amount of good and a decent amount of bad here. The one thing that I will say is I don't really see this Arizona offense cooling off. I don't see any reason why they should, right? We're still going to get a decent pitch mix that they hit from Edward Cabrera on the Marlins side of things, so I think Arizona puts up some numbers. And we haven't exactly seen the best out of Eduardo Rodriguez yet. He hasn't pitched poorly. I don't want to really go down that train, but in 3 starts, 5 1/3, 3 earned runs, 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 6 1/3, 2 earned runs. I think his ERA is nearly 5, but he does have some decent numbers. Average against the season, 2.33. So there is some good to pull from Eduardo Rodriguez as well. I would say these 2 pitchers are volatile. You could see some good out of them. You could see some bad out of them. The one constant would be that Arizona, their offense, I would imagine, ranks supreme. Now, Miami has hit lefties fairly well, so there's a chance that we look at an over here, but ultimately, Eduardo Rodriguez, he can be, not always, but can be a pretty good ground ball guy, which that is not, productive in terms of wanting to get to an over. So with that little thing in there, I'm hesitant to pull the trigger, but I think immediately I take a peek at the over. In terms of where we'd go from a side perspective, I'm having a tough time making a case for Miami, especially with that offense kind of, going off for Arizona and looking pretty good in this series, especially. So give me Arizona, maybe a team total over and a full game over, and then no player props as of right now that we're liking in this one. Next up, we have Pittsburgh taking on Washington. Pittsburgh coming off of a 6-1 win yesterday. Honestly, the pitching looked okay, right? There was a grand slam in that game, so obviously one swing of the bat changes things a lot. Falter went 7 innings. Mitchell Parker went, I believe, 6, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, we have Andrew Heaney on the bump today going up against Trevor Williams. Andrew Heaney he's had a decent year, right? I mean, that one start last time out wasn't all that great. But prior to that, the dude was looking pretty damn good. And he faced the Yankees at one point. Now, it was in Pittsburgh, but he went 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned, 10 Ks, just 1 walk in that one. Then again, he kind of comes back down to earth against Cincinnati, 6 innings pitched, 4 earned, 6 Ks, 2 walks with 1 home run. But he's going up against Trevor Williams, who I would say the more I've seen of him this year, the more, I guess, the worse he looks. It's still a small sample size. We're only, for most starters, 1 to 3 starts into their season, right, in terms of what we have from a sample size. But I do think that there is a starting pitching advantage here for Pittsburgh. I would say that, Trevor Williams is lucky in the sense that I do think this Pittsburgh offense is not very good. And I don't think that's a unique take around the industry, right? Sure, they put up 6 yesterday, but again, when a grand slam gets involved, it kind of looks like they dink and dunked and scored a lot. It's like, well, actually, in reality, they did just have 1 big inning, which, yes, you can't just take away that from someone. I understand that. But what I mean is that, it's kind of like it could be more of an anomaly in that game versus them actually tattooing and getting to the opposing pitcher, which I think they had like 8 hits in the total game. So overall, I think that this is a spot where, Trevor Williams could be able to survive because Pittsburgh's offense stinks. And I kind of like what Heaney's been doing to start the season. He also has some decent ground ball to fly ball rate, which could be really good for an underwrite, getting these guys just to kind of poke it around the park instead of sending it into Jupiter. I will say Washington hits the fastball well, so that kind of concerns me here in terms of taking a first 5 under. I think that that's what I'm looking at. I would think full game because I don't mind Pittsburgh's bullpen, and I don't think, even though Washington's bullpen is so bad, I don't think Pittsburgh's offense is all that great, but to me, you're getting 4.5 through the first 5 is a little bit more value there than just a 7.5 total overall. So right now, you get minus 130-ish, I believe, under 4.5. I think that that's ultimately where we end up going today. If I had to pick a side, I'm going to trust the better pitcher in this spot in Andrew Heaney. But again, not sure if I want to back Pittsburgh because of that offense. One player prop spot that we would take a peek at, and I'm not sure if he's actually going to get the go today, so we shall see, but I still don't mind it. Yes, it is super juicy. You can even see this, minus 165 on BetMGM. The only one that is offering it elsewhere is DraftKings, and it's minus 170, so 5 cents of value. I do really like it, though. He played yesterday, had 1 hit, 1 run, 2 RBIs. I think he comes back down to earth. I like his under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, and look at how good this looks. So, again, he may not even play, but if we can get this in, and then, if he does, then great. If he doesn't, it's just a void, right? So it's not that big of a deal. It's been bouncing between 0.5 and 1.5 all morning, so I think getting it at 1.5 is a good number. And again, what I'm looking at here is, okay, well, versus righties, he has stunk to start the season. Small sample size, but nonetheless stunk. He has a negative WRC plus against righties. Trevor Williams here, 4.5 ERA compared to a 7.36 ERA. Batting average against down below 200 against right-handed bats. WOBA at 186, and then he's going to throw a ton of sliders, right? Would you take a peek at that? This dude stinks against sliders. Again, small sample size, but I do think that this could be a good look for a player prop. Again, pretty juiced, and he might not play, but again, there's no harm in getting it in. If he doesn't end up playing, it'll just be voided. So Henry Davis, under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs would be the player prop that I'm looking at in this one. By the way, guys, if you want access to the tool that I'm showing right here on the screen, head over to the link down in the description. It'll also be in the pinned comment. It's Outlier. Just by clicking that link and signing up, you're going to get a 7-day free trial. This is my favorite player prop research tool. You can see we have this filtered to the Washington and Pittsburgh game, and you can go through and see all of the options available for your plays. You have their last 5, last 10, last 20, head-to-head, 2025. So this year, you have last year as well. You can go through and see things out for this one. Gilbert Ruiz, you can see he's hit this in 8 of his last 10, averaging 2.3. You can see all of the surrounding stats as well, even down to how they fare against certain pitches, and then even more down to how they hit in certain specific heat zones against pitches and pitchers as well. So really cool stuff, guys. Go ahead and check it out. Again, that link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. If you're like, oh, that's too much information for me, they make it easy with this Insights tab as well. You head over here and you can see all of the trending plays in the market. You can set it to specific odds that you'd want to see and that type of thing. So really cool and powerful tool, especially for the MLB. Check it out, Outlier. 7-day trial, link down in the description as well as the pinned comment. Moving on, Cincinnati taking on Seattle here. We cashed with the first 5 under in this one yesterday, which was obviously good to see. Today, I don't know if we're going in that direction. Seattle's pitching Emerson Hancock, who I don't really have too much trust in whatsoever. Overall, I mean, I don't think he has, does he have a start under his belt this 0-1, right? But I don't know if he has a start, but his ERA is ridiculous. The dude clearly just has not been pitching all that great. I think he came out of relief and just got shelled. I forget what team they played. Small sample size, it's like one or two. I think it might have been one outing, right? But either way, I don't want to trust him going up against someone like Brady Singer, who I do think is pretty good and has looked good, I guess, to some degree this year, right? I mean, when I say good, I'm going to pin it there. I don't want to say great, but he's had a good start. And then, he went up against Pittsburgh's offense, mediocre. Went up against Milwaukee, who's a decent offense, mediocre. He's striking guys out. He is allowing a decent amount of guys on base to some degree via walks. So that concerns me. But I don't really think that the Seattle offense is the type of offense that's going to fully get to him, right? So for that reason, I do think I lean Cincinnati, but you can even probably tell by the way I'm talking about Singer, talking about Hancock. Like, this game just seems kind of weird to me. Not exactly the most clear picture in the crystal ball for this one. So I'll lean towards Cincinnati, as well as maybe their team total over. I don't have much trust in Hancock, but again, small sample size. What if he comes out and does well? Last year wasn't all that terrible, right? We don't have any data from him against this current Cincinnati team in terms of the guys that make up the roster. We do have a ton of data for Brady Singer against the Mariners, and his numbers are kind of sketchy as well. So there's a lot of question marks in this one. I will lean Cincinnati and their team total over, but I'll probably end up leaving it at that. Next up, we have Chicago taking on the Athletics. Two very different games. I mean, they're both A's wins, but two very different games here in this series. 12-3 win for the A's in game one. And then yesterday, they kind of just scrape out a 3-1 win, and they scored 3 runs in the 6th inning. They were down 1-0 heading into that inning. So definitely two different games. I'm going to start with a potential total spot here. I like a first 5 under 4.5. Now, yeah, you could say, well, this White Sox team isn't good defensively, or, the pitching right now. I haven't even talked about the pitchers yet. They have Davis Martin on the bump, who I wouldn't necessarily want to write home to mom and dad about. He's going up against J.P. Sears, and J.P. Sears, though, has been okay this year, right? Based on what we had thought, one of his starts was in Colorado, so I almost want to give him a little break there. But he's pitched okay. Now, they haven't looked great in the games that he started, but again, okay, maybe good enough against this Chicago lineup, especially given the fact that he does, get a lot of ground balls. And ground balls, I would say, are very, good, and they have a strong correlation to low scoring and keeping games under. So for a first 5 under for -120, I believe is the odds right now. First 5 under 4.5 seems like that could be a direction we go in, because you have Sears should be able to keep this White Sox offense down, and then Davis Martin is going up against this A's offense. They don't hit righties as well as they do lefties. He's going to throw a ton of changeup, slider, cutter. The cutter being the only pitch that I'm really worried about. The fastball as well when he throws in mixes that one in there. But what I'll say is he's also a guy that at home so far this season, right, which, again, I sound like a broken record, but I sound like a broken record saying I sound like a broken record. But we have small sample size, but in 2 road starts this year, he's got a 1.45 ground ball to fly ball rate. That's a pretty damn good number, right? And against lefties, he kind of struggles, but there's only, I think, two or three lefties projected in the lineup for the Athletics today. Now, Soderstrom's one of them, Blade and Butler, I believe. So all guys at kind of the top of the order. A little worrisome there. If we're talking lefty-righty splits, J.P. Sears really bad against lefties to start the year, right? On the other side of things. Chicago only has, I think it's one lefty projected in their lineup today, and it's their number 9 hitter. So, yeah, I think this could be a good low-scoring game. The reason I'm not going full game under would be both of these bullpens kind of volatile in a sense. I don't believe in this A's offense long-term, but they probably have a little bit more pop than they get credit for, I guess. And a full game under, I worry, even last night, right? 3 runs in the 6th inning out of nowhere, worry that type of thing happens. So I'm just going Davis Martin. Let's see what you got. Keep the ball in play on the ground, and let's get through those first 5 innings. If I had to pick a side, I'd probably go J.P. Sears in the Athletics, but with them, on a potential sweep here, I think they're like -150. That's way too big of a price tag for me to even kind of consider with an A's team that, yes, they've looked okay, but let's remember who they're playing, right? They are playing the White Sox here. Player prop, and this has a good chance of coming in as a final play here. I like Andrew Vaughn, who we've already cashed with multiple times this season. I like his under total bases. So in terms of what we'd be looking at here, in fact, I can just show you via Outlier, right? Here are the odds: -148 on Caesars. This season, he's hit this in 12 of 16 games, but I love the fact that he's batting pretty damn poorly, and especially against lefties. And then JP Sears against righties, I already talked about it, right? Kind of struggles against lefties, but really good against the righty. And then the slider is his number one pitch, fastball the next one. Vaughn's not touching anything. So at some point, I'm sure he will catch on a little bit, but I like his under 1.5 bases today. All right, next up, Philadelphia taking on San Fran. Now, I don't think I get to this spot today, in all honesty. So being transparent with you, what I'm about to say kind of makes the case for the Giants, but I don't think that it's something that I ultimately end up pulling the trigger on. Now, they had a good game yesterday. They've had a good series against this Philadelphia team. I would envision this is a series that goes 2-2 and they shake hands afterwards with some respect, right? But this Giants offense, though they struggle against lefties, Christopher Sanchez on the mound for Philadelphia. Sanchez has been lights out against lefty bats, but really actually struggled this year against righty bats. And I think there's like 8 righty bats in the lineup today for San Francisco. Listen to some of these numbers, lefty versus righty splits. So for Christopher Sanchez, in fact, why don't I just show you instead of barking at you here, right? So right here, Christopher Sanchez, 0.8 whip against lefties to start the year, 1.54 against righties, 1.01 FIP, 5.36 FIP against righties. We move down to average against. Okay, 158, which is really good. But against righties, 313. You can see the lineups here. There's a lot of righties projected in the lineup for San Francisco. Even just moving on, walk rate. Okay, 4.8, really good. Up to 7.7, K rate, 38.1. 22% in terms of against righties. So there's a big kind of gap here. The one thing I will say, obviously, he's a really good home pitcher, and he has been for a couple years now. He's going to throw the sinker, which is a pitch that San Francisco hits really well, right? You see that. The red usually is fastball because he doesn't throw fastball. Sinker is fast pitch. It moves to that. So sinker, they hit really well. My screen's in the way, my camera's in the way here, but you can even see right here, all but one guy, and it's Adames, who's still a good hitter. He just hasn't really clicked, is struggling against the sinker. The changeup, San Francisco hits fairly well. The slider, they're kind of just middle of the pack at. So I think this could be a good spot to back San Francisco to some degree. The problem, and by the way, guys, this is the Guy Boston Sports MLB dashboard. I'll explain how to get it in just a second, but let me go through this. The problem is I think Philadelphia could have a pretty good time hitting Jordan Hicks as well, right? Righties, they kind of struggle against, but I do think that they're going to turn it around. And like I said, I think that this is probably a 2-2 type of a series. San Fran leads 2-1. So where do we end up going with this one? It's kind of tough, but I guess the way that I would pivot, and because Sanchez is on the mound, I think we're getting a good number. San Francisco team total over 3.5, you get plus money. Over 4.5, you get plus money. You can get over 2.5 right now for -160, which this offense is cruising. I know Sanchez should be pretty good, but those lefty-righty splits, the pitch mix splits, I do think that they could put up 3 runs in this game. So those are the 3 options. I might, like I said, maybe not even get to this. So if I'm being honest, I'm probably, if we do roll with it, I would go with that 2.5 for -160, which is obviously crazy juiced. But again, just to score 3 runs, it seems like that could make sense to me. So that'd be where I go in this one. San Francisco would be, I'll sound the psycho alert alarm, would be the side that I lean towards. But I also like the idea of an over because, like I even just mentioned, there's a strong chance that we see Philadelphia also get to Jordan Hicks. So maybe the easiest way to go about this would just be taking a peek at an over, right? But yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it in this one. All right, guys, to get access to the dashboard, it's simple. This is GuyBostonSports.com, which is also the website that'll take you to the final plays down in the pinned comment. You head over to the members area. You can click MLB Dashboard. If you already have an account, you're going to see it pop right up. And what you can do when you do have it is open this bad boy up. You can zoom in. You can print it out. You have each and every game broken down in a visual way. This pulls from so many different websites, like 8 different websites. Some manual, some I have automated, but it does take a lot of work to maintain. But I think this is a great and maybe the best starting place for your research process. Is it your end all be all? Can you look at this and say, okay, that's going to be my play? Yeah, you definitely can, but there's also going to be use of other tools and whatnot out there. So this is not necessarily a one-stop shop, but I would say in terms of a starting place to get a feel for what's going on, what teams are good at, what the pitcher looks like, lefty, righty splits, all that, it can be considered a one-stop shop. So yeah, head over, guys. Again, you get every single game broken out in a visual format. Very easy to consume as well once you start using it. It looks like a lot at first, but essentially green is good, red is bad. bad gets as simple as that. You got a ton of info in here. If you guys do not have an account, right? So we'll set this to a logged out view. If you guys do not have an account, it's going to look a little different. It's going to say, hey, you need a membership for this. We have 3 memberships as of right now, constantly improving these dashboards as well. So FYI, but we have the all sports dashboard, meaning you get the NBA and MLB, or you could go and roll with them individually as well. $2.99 per month for the NBA, $4.99 per month for the MLB. This MLB dashboard, I think, is the best one that we've ever built. And I use this myself, guys. Like each and every day, I'm using this to kind of get a grasp and start my research process, because it just saves a ton of time coming in here instead of going to 8 different websites finding stats. It's all in one place. So yeah, if that interests you, consider becoming a Guy Boston Sports member over on GuyBostonSports.com. Baltimore taking on Cleveland. We have Sugano on the mound for Baltimore, going up against Tanner Bybee for Cleveland. I would say both of these pitchers, in all honesty, not exactly sure what we're getting out of them just yet to start the season. Sugano has looked decent, right? But he's gone up against Toronto. Their offense really wasn't firing at the beginning of the year there. Kansas City, their offense still kind of looks dicey. Then he went up against Toronto again. 2 earned runs, 1 earned run, 3 earned run. You could say it's pretty good, but he's only averaging like 4 1/3 pitched per game. His ERA is at 3.86. That's good, but then pretty much every other advanced metric you look at doesn't look all that great. So I do worry about him to some degree. He's going up against Tanner Bybee, who honestly looked electric against Cleveland, right? 5 2/3, 0 earned runs. He had a few strikeouts. Then he goes up against the Angels and gets absolutely shelled. And then he has a shutout performance against Kansas City the next time out. So both of these guys have some weird, like they've played the same team twice. And I don't exactly know what to make of the pitching altogether. So hate to kind of put a dead end there, but even using the numbers and the dashboard that we have, I would take that with a grain of salt, considering that they've only seen a select amount of bats and different types of bats so far this year. The thing that I would ultimately end up saying is this is Baltimore at home, coming off of a nice kind of momentum driving win yesterday, 9-1. Of course, we took them the night before. They lose. Yesterday they win. Now you're getting a plus number next to them. I still don't think Cleveland has that great of bats, and Baltimore against righties a little bit better. That's where I'd go. I'd say Baltimore, go do your thing. But again, the pitching, I can't lie, the pitching does worry me overall in this one, right? Like I can't sit here and be like, oh, I'm super confident in Sugano, or even the Baltimore bullpen that I've kind of seen at times look a little dicey. So this one, I would say Baltimore or nothing, but there are a couple player props just because they're trending in that direction that I could get behind, which would be Nolan Jones and Lane Thomas, both of them under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Lane Thomas not off to the hottest start this season. You could say the same thing about Nolan Jones, right? He also strikes out a ton against the splitter. That's going to be Sugano's pitch, and the cutter he hits really poorly. Same exact argument you can make for Lane Thomas as well. So assuming that this is a spot in which Sugano just pitches okay, we could see a decent, spot for a couple unders in that spot. Now, Nolan Jones, I believe, is in the starting lineup, and same with Lane Thomas. But again, if those guys don't play, which we took Lane Thomas a couple days ago, he didn't end up playing. It's just a void. So, there's really no harm in rolling with them. We get some comments being like, those guys aren't even on the board. What is this? That's because when they're projected in the lineup and then they get scratched, the books will take them down. But I do think that both of those could be potential plays for today. I just hope that the Guardians offense, I'm right about that in a sense that I just don't think that they got all that in a bag of chips. You know what I mean? I think that this is an offense that has looked okay at times, but ultimately throughout the rest of the year, I think they may have some struggles. So, picking 2 guys today, it'd be great if they both hit, but I don't think either, are a bad look independently either. So we might roll with both of them. In terms of the total, I hate to say I don't know about this one again, but I would say maybe a Baltimore team total over spot. Tanner Bybee in his career here against the Orioles has looked okay, but I would say he's due for a little bit of, regression in a sense. So yeah, I'm sorry to kind of leave you on the fence here, but I would say Baltimore, their team total over, and then unders for those 2 Guardians players. Detroit taking on Kansas City. I would say this, you could make an argument for Kansas City in this spot now. Their offense has definitely struggled. Reese Olson's on the bump against Michael Lorenzen. Yes, I would say that there is probably advantage to the Detroit side of things, but Kansas City, I would say that they're at an all-time low offensively, right? They're not hitting. This is supposed to be a good offense against righties this season. Second to last in average, dead last in WRC+, dead last in all 4 of these stats: on base, OPS, ISO, and slugging. How long can that last for, right? I don't think it can last for all that long. And they're going up against a guy that they've seen plenty, 80 plate appearances against, a strikeout rate of 22.5, okay, a walk rate of 9, average against of 264, but an expected batting average against of 300, expected slugging 523, WOBA 377. I think this could be a spot where Reese Olson gets kind of tagged a little bit. I like Reese Olson. I thought I was going to be big on him this year. Hasn't exactly panned out for him. He's got a 6 ERA, 1.67 whip, an expected FIP of 3.94, a FIP of 3.94, an average against of 293 at home this year, an average against of 318. And there are a couple lefty bats in this lineup that, can make you pay to some degree, right? Pascatino, we got Sasquatch, Massey, and he's really struggled against lefties this year. Actually, now that I even look at it, the righty's even worse. So you have Witt, you have Perez. Some of these guys, he's over a 300 average against in terms of batting average against him, against righties. So though I kind of consider myself a Reese's Pieces guy, I don't know if this is going to be the day for him. I just think that Kansas City, at some point, things are going to click. So give me Kansas City as well as a slight lean to the over, because we really didn't even talk about Michael Lorenzen. He's been meh, in my opinion, and Detroit's offense still looks very good, ultimately. What are they coming off of? They had a really two bad games in a row against Milwaukee, but prior to that, their offense was cruising. They're back home now. I think that they might be able to put up a decent number, so give me the over in this one, but I think maybe the over is the better move instead of picking a side. But the fact that we can get, this Kansas City team, who I do believe is going to start stepping it up, that is a huge piece. If they don't, it's going to be tough, but you can get them for plus 125 right now. That just seems like the side that I'd want to be on today, even though I think that Detroit, there are a lot of arguments to be made, especially offensively. I just don't think Kansas City's offense is this bad, right? I'm not crazy there. Let me know in the comments. Kansas City's offense, is this what they are long-term, or is this just a early season rut for them? Because I do think that they were projected to be a good offense and all that, and they have some names in there. I'd be hard-pressed to find real legitimate reason as to why this will be their offense, second to last in average for the rest of the year. Tampa Bay taking on the Yankees. We have Tampa Bay slightly favored. This is essentially a pick 'em, but minus 110 for Tampa Bay right now. You can get actually minus 104 for the Yanks. Interesting one to go through here because I'm kind of confused on what we're getting for a line. Now, Tampa Bay always plays the Yankees tough and vice versa, no matter what. I feel like same thing with like the Red Sox and Tampa Bay. No matter what the talent discrepancy is, these AL East teams just play each other tough, right? But Will Warren on the mound for the Yankees, and he realistically has not been bad to start the year, right? The team is 1-2 when he does play, but his numbers look kind of decent, I guess, to some degree. On the road, he's looked okay as well, and he's got a really good offense behind him. Let's not forget that. He is going up against Taj Bradley, who is phenomenal at home, has been phenomenal at home now for a couple years, and he's coming off a really good start. 6 innings pitched, just 1 earned run, 7 Ks, 2 walks against Atlanta. He's striking out 7 guys, and this is dating back to last year. His last 4 starts, 7 strikeouts. Against New York, he pitched pretty well against them last time you saw them. This was back in July of last year, 7 innings pitched. This is in New York too, 7 innings pitched, 1 hit, 0 earned, 5 Ks. The time before that in Tampa Bay, 6 innings pitched, just 1 earned, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks. So the guy clearly pitches well against this squad, and he's at home. So that's probably why the odds are here, but I'll tell you, I still think that this is a Yankees offense that is far superior to Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay struggled with the lefties this year. Will Warren is a righty, so I understand that. I'm not forgetting that. But Taj Bradley, we know, is a guy that's going to throw heat, right? He's going to throw the fastball 41.9% of the time, call it 42 for even numbers. And then the cutter, 28.6, so call it 29, right? We have a guy that's throwing, 30, almost 70% of his damn pitches are actually 70% of his pitches are going to be fastball / cutter. Yankees, 3rd in runs above average so far this year against the fastball. Against the cutter, they're number 1 in the league, and a bunch of guys hit that pitch really well for them, including Rice, Judge, Goldsmith, Chisholm. Volpe's got a 7 runs above average number. Dominguez, towards the bottom of the lineup, a 9 in terms of runs above average as a player against the cutter. So I think Taj Bradley could pitch well, but ultimately this offense may wear him down. Give me the Yankees. If this was like Yankees minus 120, I wouldn't even consider it. I'd probably say, let's trust the better pitcher and roll with Taj Bradley. But because it's a pick 'em, I do think the Yankees bats are better. In terms of a total, it's kind of tough because I think the Yankees will score, but I'm also kind of giving Taj Bradley credit. So I'd say a very, very, very narrow margin. I would say this is like a 5-3 win for the Yankees, something like that. So a very narrow margin to the under. One of these pitchers will have a good day today. I'm confident in that. So I'm not that confident that I shouldn't say that. Do not take that and run with it. I'd much rather just say Yankees or nothing in this one, but a very small lean toward the under because I have to give Taj Bradley credit at some point, right? All right, the Mets taking on the Metropolitans. Maybe that's the word I was looking for. Taking on the Cards here. I like the first 5 under. I'll tell you why. But before we do that, I do want to make note that, like, guys, I recognize that I'm taking a ton of first 5 unders to start the year, a ton of under and hits, runs, and RBIs for players, and that's been like 2 lanes that we've been driving down the majority of our time traveling so far this MLB season, right? I do understand that, but it doesn't bother me. We get a lot of comments being like, you're taking too many unders, or the first 5 unders are getting boring. It's like, at some point, I understand that it seems repetitive, but let's remember what we're trying to do here, right? And if the numbers and what I'm liking about the games are pointing me in that direction, and we've had success with this year, it's going to be a process that we maintain, right? So I do hear you that unders, and I've said this in videos before, unders aren't exactly as fun and all that. But to me, I would almost counter and say, at least me living it, right? I think unders are just as, if not more, in baseball, entertaining than some overs, right? You guys get up to the plate, say there, you have the under 4.5 in the first 5, and there's a guy on second, and it's 2-2 in the bottom of the 5th. That entire at bat is like crazy intense, just as intense as if you needed the over for that run to come in. So yeah, to me, I apologize to the people that are like, I don't like unders, but we're just doing us over here, okay? And I know it's not like a malicious thing. You guys are just saying it's getting old. It's not getting old for me if we do keep finding what I would consider value. So, by the way, like I said, I like the first 5 under in this one. Realistically, it's based in the fact that we have 2 guys that throw the slider a ton. Andre Pallante on the mound for the Cards, going up against Griffin Canning for the Mets. And both of these guys, to start the year at least, have been inducing the ground ball like you read about, which is obviously very good because we don't want this St. Louis team getting the ball in the air. They do have some power there. So as long as Griffin Canning keeps us down, which is a really good ground ball to fly ball rate so far this year, I think that we could be good. And then the same thing for St. Louis. Andre Pallante is doing the same exact thing as Griffin Canning. Now, he is allowing a ton of guys on base via the walk, but hoping that even when guys get on base, hey, walks got it first, this ground ball take that I have is just results in, 2 outs and a double play, that type of thing. Hopefully. So I don't think there's going to be much power in this one. So far in this series, it's kind of been the opposite, right? 6-3 and then 4-3. So I wouldn't say that yesterday's game, I guess, was actually this series. The Mets just played the Twins. So these are new series, right? But same thing, yesterday the Cardinals played the Astros. Okay, we got discombobulated for a second. Astros, and they win that one, but it wasn't exactly, a crazy high-scoring game, but they did hit their over 3.5 runs, and then the Mets put up, it was a 5-3-4, I want to say, against the Twins. So, sure, they've been kind of middle of the pack, but if we do look at both of these squads in terms of the first 5, Pallante to start the year, 2-1 in terms of hitting the first 5 when he does pitch. And then Griffin Canning, all 3 of his starts, he's hit the under. So I think it's a really good spot for it. I'm glad I kind of went on that rant about the first 500 because I think this is a nice play, I should say. Right now, -125 over on MGM, -132 on FanDuel, -135 on ESPN, -130 on DraftKings. So you get 5 cents of value getting it where we're getting it as well. And again, it's realistically based on those ground balls. Not that I'm trying to hype up these pitchers, but what they do could be pretty good here, I guess. I think Pallante's launch angle is crazy, crazy low. Anyways, in terms of a side, I would still say the Mets would be my spot here. By the way, I'm just realizing now why I said Minnesota when I was talking about the Mets. Because of the last series, it was in there somewhere. But I do think that this is still a offense that at some point they're going to get going. St. Louis, though their offenses look pretty damn good, I've said it multiple times, I don't know how much I believe in this long term. So give me the Mets in this spot. They are at home. They're favored for a reason. And then a total, like I said, first 5 under 4.5. And then a quick player prop. Luis Torrens here, under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, kind of just correlated to what I just talked about with the ground balls and whatnot. He doesn't hit the fastball all that well, and we're going to get a ton of fastballs out of Pallante, right? The slider he does hit, which is the second pitch, but not to a crazy degree, right? I think that's one of his better pitches that he hits, but ultimately the fastball, ground balls, hoping that is kind of the case. So let's call this the ground ball derby because a lot of what I talked about is just about inducing the fastball down and low for ground balls. All right, Texas taking on the Angels. Now, this one I've kind of gone back and forth on, and I've seen some pitching looking like it's going back and forth. Looks like it's going to be Kumar Rocker for Texas, and they're heavily favored in this one. I would say the Angels' offense has definitely cooled off, whereas Texas's offense has been cold as well. Now, because these two guys, we have Kokanovic on the mound going on, against Kumar Rocker. Yes, they're two guys that I would also think about a first five under because of the ground ball, kind of similar to what we just talked about. But I don't really love the spot, I guess, for either one of them. I think that we could see, these guys get hit up a little bit. So there's a chance for a first five under. I don't want to overdo it, but we're going to see a bunch of sinkers, sliders from both of these guys, both low in the zone and both kind of hoping to produce some ground balls. So yes, I'm considering yet another first five under. In fact, comment F5 if you made it this far into the video. And just hopefully you guys respect that. I do acknowledge that it's like we're just doing the same thing over and over again. But again, if it's working, if it ain't broke, I'm not going to fix it, right? But that would be what I roll towards, if anything, in this game. I don't think a lot of runs come in, but what I am worried about is the fact that we have a 9.5 total, right? They're pretty much telling you, hey, we're expecting a decent amount of runs here. Now, I look at it and say, okay, well, where would these runs come from? It would have to be from the Angel side of things, right? Even though their offense is cooled off, they still have some decent numbers in terms of runs above average to start the year. The sinker and slider, the sinker they hit well, the slider they don't, but they're going to get a ton of sinkers. They hit the fastball well. So Kumar Rocker, though he's at home, I don't think he's if I had to pick who's in a worse situation, it'd probably be him, I guess, in a sense. So I'll lean towards the under 9.5. I don't want to get LA's bullpen involved, so that's why I'd probably look at first five. I'd also lean towards the Angels here because I just can't, are we really going to think about backing Rocker, even though he has looked good at times, but for minus 150 odds? I don't think so. So, yeah, that's probably going to be what we end up looking at in this game. I believe we had one player prop at least, maybe even multiple. Let's see. I think we had at least one player prop in this one. Jock Peterson. Don't mind his unders. The dude, this is pretty much just a fade of him until we see anything else. The guy has been struggling like all hell, right? This season, he's only had 2 or more hits, runs, and RBIs in 2 games. 13 of 15, he's hit the under in, and he's batting like .065. I think he has like a 65 batting average. So at this point, I'm not all that concerned with him, and we're getting decent odds at minus 115. I think we're kind of getting a good spot there because of the total being so high. But man, if we lose this one on Jock Peterson doing something and going crazy, fine. This guy has been sucking this year, and again, we're getting minus 115 odds for his under. I think that might just be something that we have to swallow and take. Pause, regardless, and just kind of, trust the trend in a sense. So, guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully, you guys did enjoy. If you did, you know exactly what to do. Go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Again, comment F5 if you made it to that point in the video in which I had said. Really do appreciate you rocking with me. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.